Well, good morning, folks. That's that's what happens when you're unprepared. It's all kind of half baked. It never really went anywhere. Oh, those things happen. Well, good morning, folks. Thanks for coming along this morning. And Joe, Ray, Holly Berry, Crystal, Shaman, Winston, Kelly, Effie, Mark Bloom, Kevlar, Flat Earth Ship Bear, and Voynich, and the whole gang, Winston and Dawn, and all the usual suspects. I am so delighted and thrilled to have you here this morning. So, hey, Mojo Shop. So, yeah, why don't we just, I guess, get right into it? No, I'll start here. I take it back. I'll start here because I'll forget if I leave it to the end. I have to, I guess, apologize. This is a confessional moment or whatever. I have recently. I will acknowledge that I have had a fairly negative attitude, I guess. I look around me at people in the world and I just go, God, they're just gross. I see things on social media, for example, of people saying, I just want to bash the heads in of people who don't wear masks, and I want to literally set them on fire. but I'm done with all the hatred. Okay. It just hurts my spirit. And so I just get really turned off by that and what I see around with people and how desperate they are for some meaning in their lives, but at the cost of others. And it hurts my spirit. And so I have been, I admit, a little bit casting glances askew at humanity. But I got a note this morning. I get notes quite frequently, and it's just delightful to hear from you guys. It makes me feel better about coming here and spending. I mean, I love spending the time with you, and this is the highlight of my week. But when I get specific notes of things that have happened and positive encouragement and feedback, it's really helpful and worth it. But I got one this morning just right out of the blue from Janet. Thank you so much. It's just, it was just this beautiful offer, selfless offer of love. And it just brought me to tears immediately. And I shared it with my wife, who had pretty much the same reaction. She was like, that is one of the most selfless, thoughtful, compassionate, considerate things that just out of the blue and nowhere. And it's so, and that just led into it. So thank you for that offer. It's just beauty. Had nothing to do with money or anything. It's just somebody being thoughtful. And we inevitably will talk about the things that have happened to us over the last few years. My wife and I went through really difficult times. They're getting a little bit better now, but they were for a minute very scary. We were nearly homeless, and we spent almost 2.5, 3 years in a trailer, a little travel trailer, sometimes without water. It was just really difficult circumstances, and she was a champ, and our relationship not only never suffered but became stronger as a result. We would never want that, but we've never regretted any of our moments together. But it was difficult, and so we have regrets about things that happened. Mistakes were made, and so. We inevitably sometimes can't help but looking back and thinking if we had done this or this different. And one of the things that came up was that it's a pity that we weren't able to keep the home that we had on the lake with the beautiful commercial kitchen. We had a wonderful guest suite for having guests and a really nice projection theater and a studio downstairs. And it had a beautiful view of Lake Washington. It was really nice, and loved the place, and a workshop for me in the back, and the whole business. It was really nice. And weirdly enough, we didn't really make nearly as much use of it then as we, would have later, because we were just so busy trying to make a living. But suddenly it occurred to me that had we now had the opportunity, what I really would want instead of that, like one of the things that I would want now, rather than just a nice house or comfort for us, is we both had this moment of just going, what we'd really rather have is a community of people that are self-sufficient and cared for one another like this. right? Like the way that Janet offered, people who were of that quality of people. And you guys are it. I mean, I see the kind of behavior you have toward one another, and it encourages and inspires me even more so. So thank you for being awesome, all of you. And yeah, we've just decided that is what we would much rather have, rather than comfort for ourselves, is to be in the company of others and making the world a better place. So hopefully we'll be able to do that in the coming future. So I wanted to just share that, both a thank you and where we're coming from. Okay, so we'll get into this morning Proverbs. So those of you who are not aware, ancient wisdom for a modern world. So came, again, no reason I guess to describe too much how we got here, but essentially a challenge for those who have not spent time with Scripture or the Bible in any context and didn't know where to start. People would often ask where to begin, and begin at the beginning. And Wayne McCroy and I took that on, beginning with Sola Scriptura, episode 1. We started at the very beginning of the book of Genesis, and looking at the the creation of the world up through the flood, and we'll continue tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and that's 8 p.m. Eastern time, taking a look at the world thereafter. But kind of looking at that. But one of the things that I always found is that the book of Proverbs, there are 31 chapters and 31 days and some months, and so it is filled with wisdom, just immutable, timeless wisdom, irrespective of what your spiritual outlook is. I think that you can find value here. So I challenged people to read it every day, beginning the very beginning of the day, and whichever one for a day. So if today's the 26th, or rather 27th, we'll read the 27th, but I'll add a couple because missed a couple of days. But just read that one each day for 3 months, right? And give it a chance to soak in really well. I've been doing it for the better part of 20 years, and it's still new to me each time. There is just beautiful wisdom to be found here. So begin this morning just sharing with you, and then give you some more, I guess, encouragement as we come to the end. And we'll move on from there. So I'll begin this morning in the 25th chapter of the book of Proverbs, and we'll do a couple of different versions of it, just to give you, again, different ideas of the way that the original author intended. These are also the Proverbs of Solomon, which officials of Hezekiah, the king of Judah, copied. The glory of God conceals things, but the glory of kings searches them out. As heaven is to height and the earth is to depth, so is the heart of kings. There is no searching. Remove the dross from silver, and it will become a vessel for the smith. Remove the wicked before a king, and his throne will be established in righteousness. Do not promote yourself before the king, and in the place of the great ones do not stand. For it is better that he say, "Friend, ascend here," than he humble you before a noble. What your eyes have seen, do not hastily bring to court. For what will you do at its end when your neighbor puts you to shame? Argue your argument with your neighbor himself. The secret of another do not disclose, lest he who hears shame you, and your ill repute will never end. Apples of gold in a setting of silver is a matter spoken at its proper time. A ring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is a rebuke to the wise to the ear of a listener. Like the cold of snow on a day of harvest is a faithful messenger to those who send him, and the soul of his master is refreshed. Like clouds and wind when there is no rain, so too is a man who boasts in a gift of deception. With patience a ruler may be persuaded, and a soft tongue will break a bone. If you find honey, eat what is sufficient for you, lest you have your fill of it and vomit it out. Make your foot scarce in the house of your neighbor, lest he become weary of you and come to hate you. Like a club and a sword and a sharp arrow is a man who bears false witness against his neighbor. A bad tooth and a lame foot is the trust of a faithless person in time of trouble. Like one who removes a garment on a cold day, or like vinegar on natron, is he who sings songs to a heavy heart. If your enemy is hungry, feed him bread, and if he is thirsty, let him drink water. For coals of fire you will heap upon his head, and Yahweh will reward you. The wind of the north produces rain, and a backbiting tongue angry faces. It's better to live upon the corner of a roof than with a woman of contention in a shared house. Like cold water upon a weary soul, so too is good news from a distant place. Like a muddled spring or a fountain polluted is the righteous who gives way before the wicked. To eat much honey is not good, nor is seeking one's honor honorable. A breached city where there is no wall is like a man who has no self-control for his spirit. Like snow in the summer and rain at the harvest, so honor is not fitting for a fool. Like the sparrow is to fluttering and the swallow is to flying, so an undeserved curse does not go forth. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the back of fools. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you become like him, even you. Answer a fool according to his folly, or else he will be wise in his own eyes. Like cutting off feet or drinking violence, so is he who sends messages in the hands of a fool. Like legs that hang limp from a lame person, so is a proverb in the mouth of fools. Like binding a stone in a sling, so is giving honor to a fool. Like a thorn that goes up in the hand of a drunkard, so is a proverb in the mouth of fools. Like an archer who wounds everyone, so is he who hires a fool, or he who hires passers-by. Like a dog returning to his vomit, so is a fool reverting to his folly. Do you see a man wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. A lazy person says, "A lion is in the road, a lion out in the streets." The door turns on its hinge, and a lazy person on his bed. A lazy person buries his hand in a dish. He is too tired to return it to his mouth. A lazy person is wiser in his own eyes than 7 who answer discreetly. Grabbing onto the ears of a dog passing by is one who meddles in a quarrel that is not his own. Like a maniac who shoots firebrands, arrows, and death, so is a man who deceives his neighbor but says, "I'm only kidding." For lack of wood a fire goes out, and where there is no whisperer, quarreling will cease. As charcoal is to hot embers and wood is to a fire, so a man of quarrels is to kindling strife. The words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels, and they go down to the inner parts of the body. Like impure silver which overlays an earthen vessel, so are smooth lips and an evil heart. On his lips an enemy will pretend, but inside he will harbor deceit. When he makes his voice gracious, do not believe him, for 7 abominations are in his heart. Though hatred is covered with guile, its evil will be exposed in the assembly. He who digs a pit, in it he will fall, and he who rolls a stone, on him it will come back. A tongue of deceit hates its victim, and a flattering mouth makes ruin. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what the day will bring. May another praise you and not your own mouth, a stranger and not your own lips. Heavy is a stone, and weighty is sand, but the provocation of a fool is heavier than them both. Cruel is wrath, and overwhelming is anger, but who can stand before jealousy? Better a rebuke that is open than a love that is hidden. The wounds of a friend mean well, but the kisses of an enemy are profane. An appetite that is sated spurns honey, but to an appetite that is ravenous, all bitterness is sweet. Like a bird that strays from its nest, so is a man who strays from his place. Perfume and incense will gladden the heart, and the pleasantness of one's friend is personal advice. As for your friend and a friend of your father, do not forsake them. And the house of your brother do not enter on the day of your calamity. Better is a close neighbor than a distant brother. Be wise, my child, and make my heart glad, and I will answer him who reproaches me with a word. When the clever sees danger, he hides. The simple go on and suffer for it. Take his garment, for he gives surety to a stranger, and to an adulteress so take his pledge. He who blesses his neighbor with a loud voice early in the morning, a curse will be reckoned to him. Dripping constantly on a day of heavy rain and a woman of contention are alike. In restraining her, he restrains wind, and his right hand will grasp oil. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. He who tends a fig tree will eat its fruit, and he who guards his master will be honored. As the waters reflect face to face, so the heart of a person reflects the person. Sheol and Abaddon will not be satisfied, and the eyes of a person will not be satisfied either. A crucible is for the silver, and a furnace for the gold, but a man is tested by the mouth of him who praises him. If you crush a fool in the mortar with the pestle along with the crushed grain, it will not drive folly from upon him. You will surely know the condition of your flock, and your heart attends to the herds. For riches are not forever, nor a crown for generation after generation. When the grass is gone, then green growth will appear, and the herbs of the mountains will be gathered. Lambs will be your clothing, and the goats the price of the field. And there will be enough goat's milk for your food, for the food of your household and the nourishment of your maidservants. That's the Lexham English Bible, Proverbs 25, 26, and 27. We'll take a look at that again. I love, again, I often don't recommend it for the purposes of deep study because it is, again, often strays very, very far from the original language. But it can be just a beautiful look at, sometimes seems very close to the intention of the author, and so the message is a paraphrase version of Scripture that I like to take a look at from time to time, and so we'll come back and revisit some of those. But I think it's, even before I do that, I'm going to come back and take a look at some of these things you can see not only in your daily life, but sort of around us right now. One of the things that we see happening frequently is, again, these ideas of proverbs in the mouths of fools, or those who stir up strife. It is absolutely remarkable how often people simply seem to thrive on drama and create havoc, even those who say that they hate it. Usually those are the ones who are the first to enjoin it. Especially this bit that says that the heart, like the water reflects the face, so does the heart reflect the person. Hey, see, Zach is having a good time with a pile of shit. And see, that is satisfaction right there. That is a man well satisfied. I love it, Zach. That's awesome. All right, so this again is the message. We'll go back to the beginning of Proverbs 25 and pick up with the message. Come back here. These also are the Proverbs of Solomon, collected by scribes of Hezekiah, the king of Judah. God delights in concealing things. Scientists delight in discovering them. Like the horizons for breadth and the ocean for depth, the understanding of a good leader is broad and deep. Remove impurities from the silver, and the silversmith can craft a fine chalice. Remove the wicked from leadership, and authority will be credible and honoring to God. Don't work yourself into the spotlight. Don't push your way into the place of prominence. It's far better to be promoted to a place of honor than to face humiliation by being demoted. Don't jump to conclusions. There may be a perfectly good explanation for what you just saw. In the heat of an argument, don't betray confidences. Word is sure to get around, and no one will trust you. The right word at the right time is like custom-made jewelry, and a wise friend's timely reprimand is like a gold ring slipped right on your finger. Reliable friends who do what they say are like cool drinks in a sweltering heat, so refreshing. Like billowing clouds that bring no rain is the person who talks big but produces nothing. Patient persistent pierces through indifference, and gentle speech breaks down rigid defenses. When you're given a box of candy, don't gulp it all down. If you eat too much chocolate, you'll make yourself sick. And when you find a friend, don't outwear your welcome. Show up at all hours, and they'll soon get fed up. Anyone who tells lies against the neighbors in court or on the street is a loose cannon. Trusting a double-crosser when you're in trouble is like biting down on an abscessed tooth. Singing light songs to the heavy-hearted is like pouring salt in their wounds. If you see your enemy hungry, go buy him lunch, and if he's thirsty, bring him a drink. Your generosity will surprise him with goodness, and God will look after you. A north wind brings stormy weather, and a gossipy tongue, stormy looks. Better to live alone in a tumble-down shack than to share a mansion with a nagging spouse. Like a cool drink of water when you're worn out and weary is a letter from a long-lost friend. A good person who gives in to a bad person is a muddied spring and a polluted well. It's not smart to stuff yourself with sweets, nor is glory piled upon glory good for you. A person without self-control is like a house with its doors and windows knocked out. We no more give honors to fools than to pray for snow in summer or rain during harvest. You have as little to fear from an undeserved curse as from the dart of a wren or the swoop of a swallow. A whip for the racehorse, a tiller for the sailboat, and a stick for the back of fools. Don't respond to the stupidity of a fool. You'll only end up looking foolish yourself. But answer a fool in simple terms so he doesn't get a swelled head. You're only asking for trouble when you send messages by a fool. And a proverb quoted by fools is as limp as a wet noodle. Putting a fool in a place of honor is like setting a mud brick on a marble column. And asking a moron to quote a proverb, it's like putting a scalpel in the hands of a drunk. If you hire a fool or a drunkard, you shoot yourself in the foot. As a dog eats its own vomit, so fools recycle silliness. See that man who thinks he's so smart? You can expect far more from a fool than from him. Loafers say, "It's dangerous out there. Tigers are prowling in the streets." And then they pull the covers back over their heads. Just as a door turns on its hinges, so does a lazy bone simply turn over in bed. A shiftless sluggard puts a fork in the pie, but is too lazy even to lift it back to his mouth. Dreamers fantasize about their self-importance. They think they are smarter than a whole college faculty. You grab a mad dog by the ears when you butt into quarrels that are none of your business. People who shrug off deliberate deceptions, saying, "I didn't mean it, I was only joking." They're worse than careless campers who walk away from smoldering campfires. When you run out of wood, the fire goes out, and when the gossip ends, the quarrel dies down. A quarrelsome person in a dispute is like kerosene thrown on a fire. Listening to gossip is like eating cheap candy. Do you want junk food like that in your body? Smooth talk from an evil heart is like glaze on cracked pottery. Your enemy shakes hands with you and greets you like an old friend, but all the while he's conniving against you. When he speaks warmly to you, don't believe him for a minute. He's just waiting for the chance to rip you off. No matter how cunningly he conceals his malice, eventually his evil will be exposed. Malice backfires, spite boomerangs. Liars hate their victim, and flatterers sabotage trust. Don't brashly announce that you're doing something big tomorrow. You don't even know the first thing about tomorrow. Don't call attention to yourself. Let others do that for you. Carrying a log across your shoulders while you're hefting a boulder with your arms is nothing compared to the burden of putting up with fools. We're blasted by anger and swamped with rage, but who can survive jealousy? A spoken reprimand is better than approval that's never expressed. The wounds from a lover are worth it, but kisses from an enemy do you in. When you've stuffed yourself, you refuse dessert, and when you're starved, you could eat a horse. People who won't settle down, wandering hither and yon, are like restless birds, flitting to and fro. Just as lotions and fragrance give sensual delight, a sweet friendship refreshes the soul. Don't leave your friends or your parents' friends and run home to your family when things get rough. It's better a nearby friend than a distant family member. Become wise, dear child, and make me happy. Then nothing the world throws my way will upset me. A prudent person sees trouble coming and gets out of the way. A simpleton walks in blindly and gets clobbered. Hold on tight to collateral to any loan to a stranger, and be wary of accepting what a transient has pawned. If you wake your friend early in the morning by shouting, "Rise and shine," it'll sound to him more like a curse than a blessing. A nagging spouse is like the drip, drip, drip of a leaky faucet. You can't turn it off, and you can't get away from it. You use steel to sharpen steel, and one friend sharpens another. If you care for your orchard, you'll enjoy its fruit. If you honor your boss, you'll be honored. Just as water mirrors your face, so your face mirrors your heart. Hell has a voracious, unquenchable appetite, and lust never quits. The purity of silver and gold is tested by putting them in the fire. The purity of human hearts is tested by giving them a little fame. Pound on a fool all you like, you can't pound out his foolishness. Know your sheep by name. Carefully attend to your flocks. Don't take them for granted. Possessions don't last forever, you know. And then, when the crops are in the harvest and stored in the barns, you can knit sweaters from lamb's wool and sell your goats for a profit. There'll be plenty of milk and meat to last your family through the winter. Proverbs 25, 26, and 27. That is from the Message. Again, if you take a moment and pause, let these words reach down into your heart. I think, again, it's very easy to see the wisdom contained therein. That's why I call it ancient wisdom for a modern world. If we apply these things to our lives, as I have tried to do, I can tell you firsthand, some of these are difficult and challenging. To be kind to your enemies and to not let your anger run away with you, or to not take opportunity to be ambitious. But ultimately, the rewards are amazing. And you find that the author here really did know what he was talking about. Specifically for me, the words early on in the book of Proverbs, in the first 6 or 7 chapters, it specifically spends a lot of time pointing out, having what seems an odd translation into English, the fear of the Lord. And my personal experience is that faced with the evidence of an omnipotent, powerful creator is rather frightening, terrifying, actually. But I don't think that's the exact meaning of the fear of the Lord. It's respect and reverence. When also you understand your position in context to that of an omniscient, omnipotent creator. It's pretty intimidating. And yet, when you also understand the ineffable, continuous, endless, boundless love that is behind it, it is remarkable. And for me, again, life-changing in ways that is difficult for me to describe. And so I do my best by trying to share some of these things with you. My point is never to try to convince, coerce, convert anyone. Simply providing my story of the journey And each of us has our own journey, certainly, and those stories are valid as well. And I love to hear the different stories from people. And I'll be spending more time as we get into the late fall and early winter in unintended consequences by exploring more of your stories. I'm also preparing the data from the first round. It's been quite a journey. Unintended consequences. I didn't intend that all this would happen, this extra stuff, but it has, and so it's been quite a journey. But again, trying to quantify some of the information. The original question was, why is it that some people awaken and some do not? And what is it that they've done to us to create these zombies? I think I have a better clue toward the answers now. Maybe not all of them, but at least some better take on it that I can share with you and give at least some insight into what I see in terms of those who did wake up and what those characteristics are. There are some corollary things and what might be done with wisdom to try to plant seeds. Certainly, I think that you know by now that you cannot drag anyone kicking and screaming into the truth. They must come to it themselves, and that is the truth of every kind, whether that is the truth of their creator or the truth of this world and what it is and the lies that we have been told. And so, with that, the way to plant seeds, it seems the better way. And so perhaps we can have some, again, additional conversations about that. And I intend to start phase 2. Probably, I was hoping to do it, again, late summer. I think I'm going to wait till about the first of the year and just make each section a year long. It's, again, not what I'd planned, but I think it will work well. The phase 2 is a little more specific. It will be a questionnaire this time. I'm going to try to put it up either on a website or on a server where you can grab it and fill in those things. So it'll be a little less open-ended than was phase 1, but a little bit more specific. And I think we can find some more corollary items and perhaps a little bit better insight. Okay, so this afternoon, of course, at 5 o'clock Pacific time, it's 8 p.m. Eastern, Wayne McCroy returns for episode 9 of Sola Scriptura as we dig a little deeper into Scripture. I love when Wayne is here. And again, thank you, Ceiling Fan Man, for joining me last week. I'm sure we'll be talking more. And we'll enjoy that. Hey, thank you, Voynich. It's a fabulous, again, to have you here. And then a little extra bit today, if you are regular listeners or not even, to Globebusters. Bob has asked me to join Globebusters this afternoon. That's noon Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern Time, as we discuss a little bit more on conjecture about the luminiferous ether and what that might entail. And so I've agreed to join them at least for a while today. So it's going to be a very busy day for me. So if you can make it over, I'm not sure. I think it's probably on their YouTube as well, as I know they've been doing DLive of late. And so we'll do that as well. And so thanks again for joining me this morning. If you have questions, comments, words of wisdom or encouragement, always love to hear those. If you need some words of wisdom or encouragement or prayer, feel free to hit me up there as well. Of course, unintended.consequences at unintended.consequences3. At gmail.com. You can also reach me by traditional snail mail at P.O. Box 2248, Linwood, Washington, 983-036. I need more coffee. I'll try that again. So for those of you who are not looking, the Great Baldini, P.O. Box 2248, Linwood, Lynnwood, Washington, 98036. My email, it's unintended.consequences3 at gmail.com. And if you wish to contribute, you can at paypal.me/greatbaldini. Coming soon at the request of my wife and some others. I'm putting up a Patreon account as well if you want to contribute that way. We're going to try a few things coming in, again, late fall probably, and certainly by the first next year, we'll have some more things to make it available for you to be involved if you like. So we'll make this a bit more interactive. So with that, again, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope to see you again later this afternoon at 5 p.m. with Sola Scriptura with Wayne McCroy. And also, if you want to show up for Globebusters, I'd love to see you there as well. We'll wrap it up today Thank you, Jennifer, and thanks, folks. I'll wrap it up today with one I don't play much. Again, this is an old song that Joe Ray and I wrote. I think this was about 1995. This is one of the last of the 100 plus songs that we wrote together from the mid 80s forward. This was actually recorded by another group. Guys that I was with in Northern California, but this is the work of Joe Ray and I. And thanks again, everybody, for joining us. I hope to see you again later this afternoon. Have a great day.
Visible streets beneath your sight, marking a pathway where solace resides. The solace is